Welcome. You're still watching Entertainment Review live on Metro TV. Today we are looking at PR in the music industry. And our guest for today is an author. It's a music consultant, publicist, A&R. He has managed big artists and he has contributed greatly to the Ghanaian music industry. I'm talking about Elorm Beenie. He is our guest for today. Elorm, it's good to have you. And today we are looking at PR in the music industry. You know, one of the ways that artists get to put out maybe an upcoming event, a project, what is going on, is through their PR. Often, that is what we see them doing. I feel that limits the PR job. People think that is what all PRs are good for. But no, they do more than that. And it's good to have you here. So before we go into the conversation, help us to understand what is PR in music industry. What does music PR involve?
Okay, PR is a very broad, but I didn't know, how come my titles are so plenty?
Yeah, I mean, the industry keeps adding more to your, to your CV.
Yeah, so PR is a very broad topic, which is public relations. In common man terms, somebody who is a liaison officer between an artist, because we are talking music now, so between an artist and the media, or between an artist and their fan base, or between an artist and other artists, or even within an artist camp, the PR is a person who relates information from the artist to the label managers. Okay. So it's quite extensive, but it's basically managing information within an outfit for an artist or a record label. So that's basically music PR, is.
In Ghana, do we intertwine the role of a manager, the role of a PR for a manager to do? Have you seen that in a Ghanaian music scene?
Yes, it happens, and there's nothing wrong with that. So far as the person can multiple role play that and do it perfectly, it's fine. Because we have an industry where we don't have established major record labels. Most of us are like indie labels running our affairs. So in such cases, you see one person doing multiple roles, which is also not bad. But the question is, are they being effective with that?
Good.
That's the question. Yeah. So if they are not being effective, then there's a concern that needs to be addressed. Yeah.
Before we come to, are they effective in doing their job? Honestly, on a scale to 1 to 10, how important is the music PR? How important does a music PR impact an industry? Because in America, in US, in the Europe, PR is important, but in our parts of the world, that is Ghana, we really don't see the extent. But I want you to tell us how important a PR impacts a music industry.
The PR is as equally important as the artist, because after production, almost everything related to the content or the artist revolves around the PR, either within the record label or outside the record label, which is engaging the media and engaging the fan base and engaging even events promoters. Almost everything revolves around what? The PR or the PR team, because they decide what goes out and what comes in and even refine certain information or press kits whatsoever. So it's very, very, very important. But when you come to Ghana now, it's like when we are talking about PR, it's like a luxury to many of our artists, and they will give some flimsy excuses. Yes, which is not right. In modern media now, PR is what runs a lot of things, if not almost everything.
Yeah, I just think that the artists also tend not to understand the business part or the importance of it also. So then when you look at a pool of a lot of artists, it's not just about your talent.
Let's not even deceive ourselves. They know about it. They are just not...
Oh, they know about it?
Most of them, they know about PR. In recent times, most of them know about the importance of PR, but it's like I said, many feel it's a luxury. It's not something that they necessarily need until they hit the rocks or there's a problem and they feel like they need a mouthpiece to talk for them.
For them.
So a lot of them, they come back and blame the media all the time. And sometimes I read certain things online. I'm like, tss. And most of the artists who come out to bash the media, they're the ones who don't run anything PR, or they don't have PR team, or they don't have a PR themselves.
Okay, so we understand that Soraya is on the phone, and so Nana, you just take us through that.
Okay,
let's speak to her quickly.
Hi, Soraya.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good. I mean, Soraya, you've been in the industry, you're a PR and many more. Since you've started this journey, looking at the Ghanaian music scene, do you think Ghanaian musicians take PR as important as is a necessary evil they need to be part of their team?
Okay, so thank you to your listeners. Firstly, I want to make a quick correction. I am not a PR person. What I am is an artist manager. The best PR person is sitting right there in the form of Elorm Beenie. What's up, brother? But basically, it's important. Artists do take it important. Like, artists do find PR important. I think what has always been the case has always been a division of funds. So, as we all know, we're a small industry. Like Elorm said, we are mostly indie labels. And sometimes what people do is they look at the funds that they have available and say, how is the best way I can split the money?
Okay.
And then they sort of look at it and say, okay, they put certain things as more important than the other. Sometimes they get it very wrong because at certain points in your career, at every point in your career, PR is very important. Sometimes it comes to you much cheaper than, later on in your, at the beginning of your career, it's more expensive, and later on in your career, it comes to you cheaper. If you establish yourself well with a lot of PR agents, a lot of press have a good relationship with you, later on in your career, you don't spend so much on it. But if you don't do it well in the beginning, what happens is you always have to fork money out. And unfortunately, when it comes to always spending money as a label, sometimes the managers look at it and say, oh, I can't afford this, or I can't afford this now. So that is where the issue is. I think they know how important it is. There's no one who can deny the importance of PR. But the question would be, if you had 50 cities, how best would you spend it? How would you split it? You spend it on the production of the music, the production of the music video, your lawyer fees, your clothing. You have to also remember these artists have families, so families, kids, and all of that. And then, do I also have money for PR? Do I have money for my manager? Do I have money for my booking agent? Do I have money for my gym trainer? All these things. So it's always a question of how do we split the pie.
Okay. Soraya, I mean, oftentimes we see artists running away from interviews, and sometimes we feel it's the job of the PR to actually communicate to these artists to understand the essence of PR job. You have been in the industry, as you mentioned, you're an artist manager. With your experience, can you tell us some of the artists that you've managed and how critical or how crucial do they understand the importance of the PR playing a part in their journey as an artist?
So the thing is this, you have to understand that artists first and foremost are people. So there are some people that are naturally charismatic, naturally outgoing, naturally energetic. There are also some people who are naturally homebodies. So, and some people are introverts, some people are extroverts, okay?
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. When I was working with VIP, you can imagine you have Tomsy, Zeal, and Prodigal. Prodigal never wants to speak to anybody because that's who he naturally is. Tomsy wants to talk to everybody. That's who he naturally is. And Zeal is always sort of in the middle. So what you always have is you always have a situation where when an interview comes up, the question always goes, is it as important as we think it is?
Yeah.
I think where the relationship between artists and TV houses or media houses have sort of gone bad is that when clickbait comes in, and so maybe an artist does a 1 hour interview and somebody else picks up a 5 second part of it, or social media picks up a 5 second part of it, and that becomes the conversation starter. So then the artist now starts to look at it and says, wait, we just sat there, we woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning, maybe they were in the studio the night before. I've had incidents where we've had shows in Cape Coast and had TV interviews at 8 o'clock in the morning, which meant we needed to be in the studio at 7. We have driven from Cape Coast after a performance throughout the night to the interview. Now, you can imagine after doing all of that for the interview, and then only a 5-minute section of the interview now becomes the headline, and it's usually the negative trend, right? So that is where the sort of the relationship is sort of merged between TV stations and and artists. But I'll give you an example as well. Somebody like EO, I think, has always had a good relationship with the press in the sense that he doesn't do a lot of interviews, but when he's ready to do an interview, he is open enough to be able to do it for. He basically blocks out a time frame in his mind and says, okay, from month one, from January to March, let's do interviews. You might never hear from him for the rest of the year,
Yeah.
but within that time frame, he sort of psyches himself and says, okay, let's go out there and get it. And whilst he's in that time frame, in that mindset, whether it trends negatively or positively, he's prepared himself for it. But not everybody's like that. You might have somebody like Miss Bell who at any point in time in her career will handle an interview perfectly. When I used to work with Miss Bell, interviews were never a problem. Sorry about the noise in the background, but interviews were never a problem. She would literally answer any question at any point in time, day or night, and she always had a way with the press. She always had you wanting and asking more questions. So it really differs. Every artist is different because they're different people. What I think we have to do as the media, because besides working with artists, I also work in the space of the media, we have to also learn to accept that artists are also, just like the same way we are different, and there are different types of TV presenters and radio presenters, there are different types of artists. Not everybody's going to answer the question the way you want it, and not everybody's going to give you the same level of energy as the next person. Stonebwoy would come into an interview and be very, very communicative. It doesn't necessarily mean that episode would be. So when they are not, then you sort of have this sort of conversation of, oh, this person is better than the next. Not necessarily. It just means they are different people and they have different styles. You might have 10 kids and every single one of them will be different.
Yeah. Oh, Soraya, so from what you're saying, some of the media houses play a part in why these artists shy away from interviews. But honestly, someone like Kwesi Arthur dropped an album this year. And honestly, the interviews he has granted is limited. So how does he expect the album to thrive if all media houses are going to be the reason why he's not really going to go for the interview? How does he expect the album to go well?
Okay, so we have to understand something. You said something. Kwesi Arthur dropped an album.
Yeah.
Okay, so Kwesi Arthur has dropped a body of work. It could have taken him a year, at least. I know it took him at least a year because there's songs on that album that were released a year ago and released about a year before the album came out.
True.
So he's put together a body of work that's taking him no less than 18 months to put together. Okay?
Yeah.
So let's call it a thesis. You sat down and you've written a thesis for 18 months. And then your team says, okay, guys, listen, although you sat down and worked on this thesis, you're basically going to have to go around and have people critique your work. So for an artist, it's always a funny place where people sit down and now discuss how good or bad your work is, okay?
Yeah.
Now you get to your first interview and you are met with 30 minutes of, at your event launch, your lecturer walked in with yellow shorts. And you're like, wait, I just spent 18 months putting together my work, my heart, my soul, and my financial capacity to put together this project. And all you care about is what the lecturer wants. These are the little things that would enforce him next time to do less and less interviews. Okay. You know, if you talk about artists that don't do a lot of interviews, they didn't always start that way.
Okay.
Soraya, can she actually of artists who don't grant interviews?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah.
I'm asking, can you tell us some names of those artists that do not grant interviews? Can you give us their names?
I personally don't think there are artists that don't grant interviews. I think that there are artists who would like for their music to speak for them. The reason I'm saying that is, for example, we know that somebody like King Thomas doesn't do a lot of interviews.
Right.
But he will do an interview. He just prefers his music will speak for him and not the controversy of what he says. Again, there are, just like a musician, there are people in your life that might be very good at writing a document. They might not necessarily be good at explaining why the document is so good. Their job is to write the document. So I think what we first have to do is accept artists for who they are. There are some artists that you will call on day or night, and they'll be able to provide you interviews and give you interesting topics. And there are some people who will not be. Let's not expect those who don't to be. And then again, like Elorm says, that is the reason why you have PR teams. When was the last time anybody saw Beyonce in an interview? When was the last time Jay-Z? Okay, Jay-Z did an interview recently with Kanye and with Kevin Hart, but that's his genuine friend. I think if you go back and look at the 25-year span of Jay-Z's career, he must have like only maybe 10 major interviews. That's one every 1.5 years. We have to understand that not everybody is the same. There are people who every day are comfortable sitting in front of the TV or the radio DJ and explaining and having conversations. And there are people who are not.
Okay. So I just want to ask also that is that not? I mean, you've mentioned the likes of Beyonce, Jay-Z, the Madonnas, and the others, but we still have them in the news because they make use of publicists, people who are feeding the media with what exactly they are up to, even though they may not show up for interviews and all that. But in our part, we don't really see that. Even bloggers complain that they don't get anything from the artists and their outfits, which is another thing on the side. What do you make of that usage of publicists in our industry? Do you think our artists are doing that?
So the specific point you're making is actually where I think the media houses fail. The media houses are expecting that because they are interviewing Kiddy, they should be able to interview Stonebwoy. But Stonebwoy has a publicist who would provide information. Now, the publicist probably does extremely well providing all the information that is needed. But because they feel like, I should be able to speak to Stonebwoy directly, they feel almost offended when it doesn't happen. I've heard so many media houses make the point, when the Nigerians come over, they do a media tour. When the Nigerians come over, they do a media tour. But if you go to Nigeria in their hometown, they hardly do media tours in their hometown. They have publicists that speak for them. It's when they're out of the space, in a place where there is a need to show who they are, their face, because that's not their core base. That's why you tend to see them more often. But if you have a publicist and the publicist is doing a great job for you, that's what most people rely on. Unfortunately, the Ghanaian media space, what we tend to want is we want a physical representation. So we don't want Elorm. I'll give you an example. If tomorrow you called Metro TV and said, Metro, I want to interview Rocky Dawini, and Rocky says, you know what, guys, I'm in Cyprus. I'll send Elorm.
I mean, that would be understandable. That would be understandable. But there's also the issue of some of them, because we are talking about an industry that we want to collaborate, the media, the artists. And so if you do not want to talk on interview or join interviews and you wait till you want to release a project, and that is where you reach out to me, then that is also a problem.
Yeah.
1 second. The question is, will you take the interview? Would you accept Elorm to be the mouthpiece of the artist that he represents?
Well, if Rocky is not in town, I would understand why Beenie would be here to speak to us.
That's the question.
Okay. Well, a lot of people also talk about the fact that like someone like Black Sherry, if his issue came up, we've never heard him talk about anything. Nope. So everybody would just flow with it. But if there were, some proper, PR stuff, the PR would probably put out a statement or, some of these things. People say things about artists, they never come out to say anything. Is that a good strategy that they just want to not say anything, or there's actually supposed to be someone who will say that this is not the right thing?
Up for your audience. You're not listening to me, sir. I'm asking you a simple question to make a point.
Okay.
My point is, you've just expressed the importance of PR. Mm-hmm. And my question is, as Metro TV Entertainment Review, if you wanted to interview Rocky Dawini, and he's currently in a music camp in Cyprus, and he has given the absolute right for Elorm to step in for him, would you book an interview live on your show with Rocky and with Elorm? No, you wouldn't.
We would. We've done that a lot of times here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you guys are misunderstanding Soraya. What she's trying to say is not Metro TV specifically, generally.
Like an artist.
Yes,
if
when
an
that
artist
happens,
is not
most
available.
of the time, the media houses also shove off the PR or they try to rubbish the artist to the side.
Okay.
That is also another reality we need to look at.
Okay.
Secondly, sometimes when the artists also come to sit for interviews, after the interviews, I'm using this one, R2Bs, as an example, because
Okay.
they complained about that. After granting interviews, later on, maybe in the news file, the entertainment segment, what they said on the interview gets tweaked.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Yes, there are so many media houses who do it, from the blogs, from the traditional media to the online platforms. After artists grant interviews, their words get tweaked into something else. So they'll be like, will this continue happening? Or maybe I should develop a strategy whereby I don't want to grant interviews at all. Or I would limit the number of interviews I will grant media houses. So that reality also exists that we also need to be aware of. My concern is the artists who don't do any of these things deliberately, but still come back to blame the media for not supporting them.
Exactly.
Okay.
That
But
is also another point that we
Yeah.
also need to look
Exactly.
at, because to whom much is given, much is expected.
Exactly, but-
so
but-
if you are not giving me the platform to have access to you or your PR team to get the needed information, and you are blaming me for not supporting you enough,
I mean, that was my point, that it's a collaborative
maybe you didn't
thing.
put it across
You know,
well to
it is a
Soraya.
collaborative thing. And
Yes.
so when I need you and you're available, you should make yourself available. And talking about, I know a lot of blogs, a lot of people do tweets.
And
to
realistically,
some
do
of
you know
these
there are
things.
some media houses too that blacklist artists because they decided not to grant them interviews? Or
Okay.
you want to say you are not aware? It
You know,
exists.
Really, let's
Elorm.
talk about
exists.
Soraya and then we
yeah,
come
Elorm,
back in.
okay, Elorm, it really exists, like what
Yes.
you are saying, but how often do we see media houses tweaking what artists said for the artists to let the PR come out and actually clarify what was said?
Can I ask,
Can
Soraya
I,
wants to
can
say
I,
something.
can I say
Soraya.
something?
Yeah, oh, go on,
Okay,
Soraya.
So I think first and foremost, can we just go on to say how great Elorm is, that even me, I need a PR person to explain my point. But
I understood what you said. I understood what you said, really.
my point is simple. You just asked a question just before I came back.
Okay.
Where you said if the media house tweaks their information,
True.
why can't they get a PR person to twist it around? I think you guys have to understand the frustration of being first and foremost. Understand again that artists are human beings. They have parents, they have kids, they have sisters, they have brothers. These brothers, these sisters, these kids, these parents work in offices, in churches. They have all these people that they answer to. So when I go on radio and I have a conversation about, for example, one of the things that always shocks me when we talk about on Ghana television is you'll be talking to an artist and they say, "Do you smoke weed?" You knowing very well that weed is illegal. Knowing very well that weed is illegal,
They'll
you ask
push
the
you.
person this question.
True.
And when the person responds, maybe the person responds and says, "Oh, I don't have a problem with this. Maybe I don't do it, but I don't have a problem with it." Then the news file picks it up and says, Amati Dede says weed should be legal. Now, this person now has to respond to their parents, their kids, their family that work in different offices where their bosses are now saying, "Hey, Obane or Shio," all these kind of things, right? Now, they're
Yes.
saying, why can't they get a PR person to come and clean this up? Why should they when they just gave you the response in person?
True. Soraya,
Great. He's staff. He's paid. So my question is, we have to understand that it's a cross section of relationships.
yeah,
There has been a lot of bad blood because a lot of things have not been done right.
true.
No artist wakes up and says, "I don't want to do interviews." They usually say that when they've had bad
Experience. Okay. So before we allow you to go, can you tell us if an artist decides to pick a person, an individual, as his or her music PR, what are some of the qualities the artist has to look out for before hiring that particular person?
So usually they look for somebody who has great relationships with media houses, somebody who has a communications diploma or a degree,
Okay.
somebody who can write well, somebody who can speak well. But then also you find rare gems like someone like Elorm, that it's about the relationship building
Yeah.
and the ability to maintain the relationship. And
Hello?
Oh, Soraya's off.
I think we lost
Yeah,
Soraya
but we'll
there.
come to Elorm.
Yes.
Like Soraya was saying, what are
Yes.
some of the qualities that these artists
so
have to look out for?
to extend what Soraya actually says, to many artists or record labels also look at how involved are you in the craft that they want you to run PR for, because you need to have that synergy. If I don't like the makeup of Metro TV, why would Metro TV want to employ me to work for them? So Metro TV also need to have the confidence in me that, oh, I truly want to work for their outfit and represent them rightfully in public eye or in the media eye before they will engage my services. So these are the things that also count, adding to what Soraya also said. Yeah.
But do we have enough PR companies in Ghana?
There are so many, even GIG, there are so many
Hey,
institutions
Elorm.
that...
No, he's just trying to say that.
No, there are so many institutions that groom a lot of people in public relations.
True.
How are we using them? Even the artists or some of the artists who have PRs in their teams, how are these people equipped?
But do we have like companies, agencies? Let's say there's a company built, established
For PR.
for an artist to say, I'm working in, or let's say a company says, I'm working in to take this person as a PR. Not necessarily looking at someone who has been in the media, or maybe has an acting background, and I'll pick the person.
Not that I know of, but
Okay.
if you look around,
There'll be a
many,
number of them.
yes.
Yeah.
But I want to, the part that I still may not agree with respect to if you say something and it's being tweaked, that is totally wrong. That is just for the clicks and all of that.
but that's on the back
but
end.
that shouldn't make you blacklist everybody.
Media house.
It doesn't mean
someone-
it doesn't mean everybody or every artist want to blacklist or have decided to blacklist.
But we
media
almost
houses.
face the
Yeah.
brands because someone says something, the person doesn't want to talk about it again.
Maybe it got to them. There are different people and there are different temperaments and how they relate with people and media houses. So maybe that one got to him or her and he decided, okay, that's it. I'm not
not gonna talk again.
engage you guys,
Yeah.
regardless of whatsoever.
Yeah.
So that reality also exists.
Well, okay, Elon, what about the artist saying that I don't want this type of questions to be asked? For example, let me use someone like Kwesiata. Every time Kwesiata drops something, whether it's an album, an EP, or a single, every interview, he's been asked about Efia Odo is not in the music industry.
Okay.
He's in the entertainment industry. Can't Kwesiata make a stand that, whilst I'm here, media house or whichever media state, don't ask me
You see,
this question.
sometimes some
Or
of the
maybe
media
are
houses,
they also using it to their advantage? Because the moment
I am
you
not
add,
sure. I am not sure.
hello.
You know, the thing is, many media houses, or let me not say many, or some media houses, they don't even send you questionnaires before you come and sit down for interviews. They just tell you, oh, we want to do a personality profile on you, or you have a new song release or a new project and we want to talk about it. You are in that seat and they're asking you about another artist instead of yourself.
That is why I
Yeah.
have a problem with some of our
Some
You
of
get
us,
my
yeah.
point. There are some show producers who don't do enough research. They are just jumping on trending material on social media.
True.
So the producers of various media houses, if you are listening to me, I'm putting it to you, I'm challenging you.
Yeah.
Do a lot of research. Create content. You don't always have to jump on trending material to create news. Somebody like me, I spend a lot of hours. If you look at my eyes, there are so many times my eyes are bulging because I have not had sleep for days, for weeks, for months, because I have to brainstorm albums. I have an artist I'm working with called Israel Maweta. He's a traditional artist. We are working on some projects. I have to spend so many days and weeks trying to strategize.
strategize, yeah.
Why can't show producers of TV and radio stations or traditional media also do the same? Because that is their purpose. That's what they're supposed
So
to
that's
do.
what I'm saying. When you find a particular one, deal with them differently than
Differently.
you
They
than
don't put
putting all of us in there
Yeah.
and say that, you know what, because this happened here. I'm not
Well,
doing this, I'm
they
not
are
doing that.
dealing with them like individually or
Yeah.
respectively.
True.
But you find similar attitude or similar engagement in other media houses. So you tend to deal with them the same way.
Okay, of course, if you come here, you don't
You-
get
you get
that
my
though.
point.
But on top of your head,
Yes.
name artists that you get their stuff easily for you to be able to publish for them.
I think one who has been doing extremely well, Amrado. Yeah, he's been doing very
Okay,
well. His
okay.
manager actually periodically he's sending you press material on a regular. So, you know, and they make the work easier. There are some who won't necessarily send you direct press material, but they give you leads or feeds that you actually develop into content for them. And Stoneboy, he has a Gerard Israel, so who handles his PR now that I know, and regularly he also sends material across. And Chris Kone, I don't know if he's still working with Shatawale, but most of the time, if there's anything
about
around Shatawale that is newsworthy they want to put out, Chris Kone always on a regular sends me press material to handle. There are a couple of them.
But
there are some
what
that
about
I
the
might
Links boys?
not. I think once a while I get stuff on.
You know
them.
what? I got one today from Links
No,
Entertainment.
You see, on that as well, it could be that they are sharing content with other people that I'm not on that list. It doesn't mean that
They are not.
They are
they
not
are not
getting out to
sharing.
the others.
But the ones that come across to me, they are the names that I
You
can mention.
But then with artists that wouldn't allow the services of public relation officers and all that, do you think that, is it that they have issues with finances? Though you say that, they have managers, they pay for their service and all that. Is it that they do not, those that don't involve PRs, is it that they don't have enough resources to do that? Or is it that we do not have a lot of labels that is helping them to be able to involve the services of PRs?
We all know how cash-strapped the system is, especially in recent times. But Soraya mentioned something earlier that if you have 50 CDs, how are you spending that 50 CDs to maximize your publicity or whatever profit you want to engage with your content? You see some artists who don't do any of these things, but they are in the street sharing money and making it trend on social
That's to
media.
say they don't see the
But
relevance of engaging the
they don't see
services
the
of
need.
Yeah.
They know.
Because
they know
my
it's
people
it's
follow
cool, but
me already, so
yes.
why the need?
I have the numbers. I have the followers.
Not to say that what they are doing in the street is not worthy. It's worthy, but these are some of the people who come and say, "Oh, the media doesn't support me. They don't do this."
Right.
And when you hit them up, or even when you hit some of them, their teams for information, it's as hard as finding water in a rock.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
we just want to tell people that we are with them.
We are with
you
them.
always.
We
You
are
know, so we can always.
open.
But you guys can put me on the chopping board as well if I've not done well.
Oh, no, you've
Because
done
you've
well.
been doing well with Chief One. I see Chief One going everywhere.
True.
You know.
We even
And
have a
Chief
new
has
video
even
out.
been
So
here
yeah,
before.
Yeah, Chief has been here
And
also.
there are other artists who are out there doing so good. And for Soraya mentioning that she's an artist manager, managing EO at the time, it was easy. And even till now, I remember EO came here and was saying that some TV stations actually, he and Kasa has blacklisted them. Someone like even D Black has also said that. And we just want media houses, or no, the artists to know that you shouldn't put all of us in that box.
Don't do
Some
that.
of us are really
Don't do
here
that.
to help make the industry a better place.
Yeah, and that's
so
what-
someone like R2B is coming on our table. We'll really appreciate it. We won't tweak anybody's words.
I know, but you see somebody like Jackie. The other time I was speaking with
Jackie, Jackie.
I was speaking with my colleague Pep Jr.
Yeah.
Pep who handles him. And Pep was telling me that, with Jackie, there's a brand strategy that they have for her, not too much exposure and all of that. So instead of engaging these interviews as the media houses would want, they would rather want to go another route and do something else to keep her visible on the scene, which I perfectly understand. There are different artists with different strategies.
Yeah.
You can't expect the way Elorm Beenie runs Chief One or Samini or Stoneboy or his affiliate brands the way another person would run their artists. There are different brand strategies, so we should also not expect every artist or team to have the same strategy.
That's
Someone
fine.
like Kodjoentry, how often do you see him on interviews?
Yeah.
But when his name comes up, it comes with a very loud repertoire. So it depends on the makeup of the artist.
And also,
their team.
Elorm, when they are doing their strategy, they shouldn't be going to one particular media house.
Maybe.
Yes, they shouldn't be going to one particular media house.
This conversation we need to continue.
Yeah, we'll continue the conversation.
Thank you so much.
And the next time we continue that conversation, it's going to be with, let's say, someone like Elorm sharing the experience about when managing this artist, this and this and this is going on. We'll have someone like Sammy Forson and also appear to telling us what they used to do back then and what has changed now. My name is Soraya Tanawache, and I did this with
Desmond Okreke, so you can call me Desifading the Star Boy.
Helen Anyeweja. You can call me Helen K.
thanks to Soraya for joining, and thanks to Elorm for coming in.